Welcome to Halifa Sallah, the spokesperson for the Gambian Coalition. Could you tell us a little bit more about these comments that President-elect Adama Barrow made regarding Jammeh leaving power peacefully like an ex-colonizer?
Well, not necessarily like the ex-colonizer. I think he's making comparison that when the Gambian people wanted their self-determination and independence, the colonial power handed over power peacefully to the promotion of the well-being of the Gambian people. So he's simply saying that Gambia is a republic, a secular democratic republic. The people own power. It is very clear in our constitution that power must be derived from the consent of the people and must be utilized to promote the general welfare. So if the people on the 1st of December spoke that they no longer want the leadership of outgoing President Jammeh and they want the leadership of President-elect Barrow, the Constitution says at the end of the term of his office in January that President-elect Barrow should assume office. That is the language of the Constitution. So he's simply saying, President Jammeh, I won the election. Be ready to hand over power peacefully.
What's the latest that you have in terms of your discussions with the ECOWAS bloc? Because they've warned that they could send troops if Jammeh doesn't step down by the 19th of January.
Well, you have the UN, you have AU, you have ECOWAS and their protocols, but essentially they came to the Gambia sending 4 heads of state, with also a representative of the UN Secretary General, and they talked to the outgoing President Jammeh, they spoke to the coalition and President-elect Barrow, they spoke to the IEC, they collected their facts, they went back, and what is evident as noonday to anybody who comes here is that the Independent Electoral Commission is the only authority that can declare the results and declare somebody a winner, and that has been done. Whoever has grievances, you have to go to the Supreme Court, and that does not serve as a bar to the constitutional process of the President-elect assuming office on the day that the term of office of the outgoing president, the incumbent, expires. And that's what ECOWAS realized. So as far as they are concerned, and anybody else and every Gambian, President-elect Barrow should be preparing for his inauguration. And that's what ECOWAS said, that on that inauguration, they are going to appear in their like numbers. The other issues of protocol, etc., what our position is very clear. We are telling outgoing President Jammeh and every Gambian that we should take charge of our destiny and speak the language of our constitution. Then we don't expect anybody to interfere in our affairs. But if we, the Gambian people, fail to abide by our constitution, fail to take charge of our own affairs, others will take charge of our affairs for us. So for us, the ECOWAS declaration or any declaration made from the outside is not really our concern at the moment. Our concern at the moment is to prepare for inauguration and continue to tell outgoing President Jammeh that he should engage the Gambian population and do what our constitution says. And what we expect is for him to do that. And in the air, we would also welcome, because ECOWAS has already selected the president of Nigeria and the president of Ghana, who is also an outgoing president. He is just staying for 30 days, who should be a role model to outgoing President Jammeh. Outgoing President Jammeh would have been a model because he accepted the results. And if he allowed a smooth transition, now he would have been quoted as a model. So we expect that these two people will come and continue the negotiation so that the bidding of our constitution and the will of our people will be assured.
Are there any further meetings with ECOWAS expected in the coming days?
We expect, in fact, President-elect Barrow in his statement is calling on ECOWAS to speed up the team so that negotiation will continue because he is continuing with preparation for his inauguration. And Gambia has already earned the respect. It is a country that had never changed through the ballot box. So when it did, the whole world is embracing the country, so we're expecting peaceful transfer of power and the opening up of the country to investment for the general welfare of our people.
Exactly what preparations are you making for the inauguration?
Well, we have a committee already set up that is already making preparations and we are doing all that is necessary. And maybe you'll have one occasion when they are fully ready to issue their press statement to tell people the state of the inauguration.
Exactly what is your relationship with the Gambian armed forces at the moment?
At the moment, we have said that until 18th of January, because outgoing President Jammeh has a term of office which started on the 19th of January 2012 and 5-year term, so he goes up to January. The position of the coalition is that he is still the president of the republic, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He can post them anywhere he wishes, deal with the civil service anywhere that is his bidding. But we believe that on the 19th, his term will expire. President-elect Barrow will assume office. He will be the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So we expect President Jammeh to hand over peacefully. If he fails to do so on that day, he becomes a rebel. Anybody in the armed forces should also owe allegiance to the state, to the republic, and therefore should be under the command of the newly president-elect. Otherwise, they also become rebels. So we have been informing the Gambian population, everybody, that a peaceful transfer of power maintains instruments like constitutions and institutions, and everybody is secure. But if you allow the situation to deteriorate, people become rebels, everything is torn to pieces. Institutions are destroyed, instruments do not work, and of course the law of the jungle will prevail. We Gambian people don't want that. And I believe that we are succeeding in mobilizing because people, voluntary organizations, civil society, everybody is going to President-elect Barrow to show that they are ready on the day that he's inaugurated to really owe their allegiance to the Republic and support him in his newly elected post. So we believe that every reasonable Gambian by the 19th will be on one side and the unreasonable ones will remain alone, very lonely indeed, for our country to maintain its peace.
If the leaders of the Gambian armed forces don't swear allegiance to President-elect Barrow on the 19th, as we've just talked about, what will be your strategy?
There is really no need for strategy. That's what I'm saying. The strategy is already there, that he is the president-elect, supported by the Gambian people. We don't believe that any armed force will ever go against the people. The armed forces are supposed to be disciplined forces, cultured in respecting the Republic, defending the Republic, and consequently, they also must respect the peaceful transfer of power based on the constitutional provision. So we do not even hypothesize that sooner on the 19th that anything of that nature will happen. We believe the Gambian people as a whole are always a peaceful people, not a cowardly people, but a very peaceful people who respect constitutional processes, and we believe whether civil or military, the constitutional processes will prevail.
What are you going to do about President Jammeh's complaints about the electoral process?
Well, that is in court. We say that according to Section 49 of our Constitution, any person with grievance could go to the Supreme Court. We respect judicial processes. We are just convinced that there was counting on the spot. And because there was counting on the spot, all the political parties had their agents counting agents. And in fact, they sent the results to their coalition centers, and we knew the results before the Independent Electoral Commission. So we are confident that irrespective of any judicial process, what the outcome declared by the Independent Electoral Commission will ultimately stand. So as it stands now, we have full confidence that President-elect Barrow won, and that winning, that victory will not be altered.
If this matter does go to the Supreme Court in the Gambia, who will rule on the case? Because there have previously been instances where judges from other African countries have been brought in to rule on Gambian affairs, so-called mercenary judges. We just think back to the case of Hussein Odabo.
I really don't want to call any judge a mercenary judge. I don't want to impinge on the integrity of the judiciary. We, as an incoming government, believe in the separation of powers. And as a result, the judiciary is the judiciary, the legislature is the executive. So at this stage, we do not want to start coming in and behave like other dictators do, to start being prosecutors and judges. That's why when people say that the coalition will be prosecuting Jammeh, we say we believe in the presumption of innocence. We believe that we cannot presume indictment without institutions doing anything. So at this time, for us, we do not comment on the judiciary. We have confidence that the facts on the ground can never be altered by anybody, because it was counting on the spot. We knew the results before the IEC, and we know that we won the election. Anything that happens, we have emphasized that will never be altered. We cannot be disadvantaged by anything.
Welcome to Halifa Sallah, the spokesperson for the Gambian Coalition. Could you tell us a little bit more about these comments that President-elect Adama Barrow made regarding Jammeh leaving power peacefully like an ex-colonizer?
Well, not necessarily like the ex-colonizer. I think he's making comparison that when the Gambia